All right, we're here as the Lost Rider Podcast. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House. Listening post to the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Brune. This weekend's edition is also brought to us by Shaw's Bend Social Club. Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club of folks who don't have a country club. All right, tell you what. We're here. We've got a guest with us this week. He is the Republican candidate in the November election for House District 85. Now, he is Mr. Dennis Geeseman, and he has replaced the incumbent. We just saw that happen. It doesn't happen a lot. So often an incumbent will get in office, and it is just, you can't get them out of there. You can't blow them out of there. And you just wonder how some of these people manage to stay in office. Well, that's not what happened in House District 85 this time around. The gentleman who was in there was in for 2 terms. Folks were not happy with the way the Texas House has been run. And Mr. Geeseman ran for that position, and he unseated the incumbent. We have him here today. And we're going to talk about a little bit about what are we going to expect in this next session of the legislature. So, you're Mr. Geeseman, you are fully aware of Austin. They've been calling you. You knew what you were up against. You beat the odds. And I guess, one of the first questions is, do you see Austin turning, or what do you think? We call it a swamp. We call it, there's a lot of problems in Austin, budgetary problems, a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to just let you give me a little rundown, then I'll ask a few more specific questions.
Okay, sure. It's good to be here again. My nickname has been Goose ever since I was a kid, so I'm always happy folks refer to me as Goose Geeseman, because I've been Goose Geeseman since I was a kid, and throughout my time in the military and in high school, college, people didn't even know my first name was Dennis, but I was Goose way before Top Gun, even though I was a fighter pilot in the Air Force, and Goose worked great as a call sign in the Air Force. But I'm still waiting for my royalties from Top Gun. I'm probably not going to get any of those. But anyway, what I know, we've always heard about the Washington, D.C. swamp. And I think I got a good taste of the Austin swamp, and there's one there also. I was just amazed at how much money is going around the establishment and what I call the Uniparty over in Austin, and they call it the Incumbent Protection Program. And I saw that. So just for a little house race, I was basically self-funded. I had $2 million put up against me from the other incumbents and from the big lobbyists in Austin. So the reason I think I pulled this off is because I early went out and connected with the grassroots and the incumbents. After they get up to Austin with all the big money and large names whispering in your ear, they kind of lose touch with what's going on at the grassroots. So he didn't see it coming until he had a poll probably in December where he said, oh my gosh, this Goose guy could be ahead. So it went ugly negative. So if you've seen a lot of mailers that were very ugly and negative, that's the reason it turned out back in December until the election. But I had enough of a foothold in the grassroots that it carried through, and I beat the incumbent by almost 15 points.
Okay, so now we're going to get to Austin. You've got some really established senators out here close by us that have been there forever, and there's a few. Who are you going to look to? I mean, one of the biggest problems was Burrows in the House, Speaker of the House, and I think that's one of the things people expect to see changed. I'll give you 3 things right off the bat. Is they want to see the speaker change. They want to see property taxes, something done with property taxes. If we're getting tired of hearing about reform and nothing happens. They just get rid of them. And then I think one of the things that's going to come up is going to be, oh gosh, what do you call it? One of the things that I expect to see more of is talking about term limits. I expect to hear more about that because Austin has become too entrenched.
I agree with the term limits. It really seems like after about 2 terms, the folks up there in Austin start to lose touch with what's going on at the grassroots at their district. So I've signed on with a support for term limits. Now, what that's going to be, actually picking a number, how many terms for a senator, how many terms for a rep, or how many terms for a statewide elected office. My thoughts would be normally, especially for a statewide office or a senator, be 2 terms, maybe 3 terms, because for a rep it's only a 2-year term. But I totally support term limits. Let me go backwards here on property taxes. I think out of the knocking on doors, and probably between me and my campaign manager, we knocked on close to 5,000 doors, and then we hired some other folks to go out and knock on another 6,000 doors. So I think we were really plugged into what the people were thinking. And probably the number one thing in knocking on doors was property taxes. Mm-hmm. Folks that have lived in their house for a long time, that feel like either with insurance or in property tax rates, they towards the latter part of their life, they feel like they got to sell it just to they can't afford to stay there any longer. But then on the other side, that also presents I think a terrible barrier for the younger folks getting into the housing market, and that's and getting a home for your family. That's part of the American dream. And if the younger folks don't see a pathway to the American dream, I think we got a big problem here. But right now, what they've tried to do is with exemptions, squeezing down the amount that they can tax your property. But I think with all the amount that we've put into exemptions, right now we're up to like $51 billion every 2 years that we put into squeezing down the, some people call it compression, squeezing down the property taxes that are paid. And then with the surplus that we've consistently been having due to oil and stuff, drill baby drill, I think we have plenty there to, along with the idea of moving the maintenance and operations off of ISDs into the budget to pay for that, and then and basically make anybody's homestead taxes down to zero. I think we could do that in one term. What was the third thing? The first thing?
Oh, we were talking about boroughs, eliminate changing the House Speaker.
Yeah, that's kind of the uniparty establishment, I call it. I think I've always said that back in the first time that George W. Bush was elected back in 1994, I think it was, that was the first time that a statewide race, all the statewide races went Republican. And there was a need at that time to reach across the aisle and get along with all the Democrats. But the left has moved further and further and further to the left, that reaching across the aisle right now to compromise with what's the rump of the Democrat Party, I think is a mistake. We got to stick to our conservative values that we have out here, and that's what I think Speaker Burrows was trying to do. He reached across the aisle and impeached to get all the Democrat votes to impeach Ken Paxton. Then he reached across the aisle with all the Democrats to get himself elected as Speaker of the House. Mm-hmm. And then he reached across the aisle to write all the rules for how the House is going to be run, which essentially, even though that they did not put Democrats head of the main committees any longer, they were all the vice chairs, and they had the ability in the House rules to kill any conservative legislation, never let it get out of committee. So I can understand as conservative as Speaker Burrows tries to portray himself, I don't think we can elect him as Speaker of the House again.
Right. Okay. No, Burroughs was hand in hand with Phelan. And yeah, when Phelan stepped aside, Burroughs just took over, and they were cut from the same cloth. Is there any type of unity going on, any calls being made, anybody else that's being pushed forward that, sees, say, yeah, this should be our guy, this is the guy we need to all get behind?
There's the head of the Republican caucus is Dr. Tom Oliverson, and he's got some good experience. He could be a good choice. There's another guy that's been in there several terms now from the Collins County, just east of Dallas area, Brent Money. I like him. So those are two guys that I look up to for potentials for Speaker of the House. They're not as hardcore dyed-in-the-wool conservative that they can still make a good coalition of all the Republicans that are there to elect our own Speaker of the House instead of going to all the Democrats to make a Speaker of the House.
Okay, all right. Okay. Now you were telling me earlier also you've already been a little bit busy, and I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break and thank the folks who let us come on here Saturday morning. When we get back, we're going to talk a little more about LCRA. We'll be right back.